All right. I'm going to keep my camera off just because my computer has been having a moment. So I apologize for not showing my face, but that is why. So we are going to talk about all things Overdrive today. Like Darlene said, we will send you slides at the end, but I find that it is sometimes easier to actually start with Overdrive as opposed to just looking at my slides. To start, you can either show by raising your hand or putting it in the chat. Do either of you already use Overdrive, or is this a new process for you? If you are new to Overdrive, raise your hand. Okay, well, I'm going to assume then that not everybody is new, so we will just do sort of a quick overview of some of the basics. Let's see. Let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. So this is your main landing screen that you're going to see when you get to Overdrive. So this is, I'm obviously logged in as Glen Ridge, so you're going to see our screen. So this is your main marketplace. You're going to see, you have your basic search box, and you have the different, they always have a sale, and they will have your different categories of things that you can purchase. If you're looking for items, you can just use the search box like you normally would. And then there's also an advanced search bar that you can use if you have a more detailed search that you're looking for. And you'll see over here under shop, it defaults to the one copy, one user and metered access option. But there are some different options we're going to talk about later. These are your other lending models that you have access to, which is cost per cert or CPC, subscriptions, and now they have the extras. We also have our purchasing tools and our purchasing content credit. That's basically if you have, it's basically buying a gift card or any sort of credit. If you have money that you want to put down towards your Overdrive purchases, you can do that. They are happy to take your money. And you can do that as purchasing content credit. If you want to do that, we'll all talk at the end about who our Overdrive reps are, and you can reach out to them directly for that information. Okay, so we have over here, we have our carts, and you'll notice I have my May 2025 cart. If you click on carts, you will see for me, I have a May 2025 cart, and I also have a future purchases cart. I do not do pre-orders. I'm not a big fan of pre-ordering. And the recommendation from eBuckles is that if you are doing pre-orders, they should be no more than 6 months in advance. We have had some issues in eBuckles with people buying things that are not coming out until 2029, otherwise known as the latest Sarah J. Maas. And that can throw a lot of things off. People put holds on it. They don't understand why it's not coming. It might get weeded because of the time frames. So it's just best that if you want to do pre-orders, that you only do them 6 months in advance. Personally, I don't do them because I don't like my holds and my money being used on things in the future. And I find that people don't understand that it's something that's far in advance. And I want to see how the holds are going to play out between the shared collection and my collection before I order things. So anything that's in the future that I might want to order, I put in the future purchases cart. And then I have my May cart. And then this is an automated cart that Overdrive does, which is the expiring metered access title. So when your titles are expiring, they will make an automated cart for you. and you can do that. I believe they have that set up for everybody, but we'll talk a little bit about how to do those as well. If you want to create a cart, you click on the Create Cart option. You give it a name. So for me, I do the month and the year, and new usually. And then you can also include a description. The pin as main cart is where it ends up here. If you don't want it to be pinned, you can uncheck that box and then it will be in the other carts section. You can also check the lock to prevent changes by others. And that will keep, if you have other people who also have shopping access on your account, keep them from making any changes to your cart. I am the only one that does ordering for my library, so I don't bother with the locking because I don't think it's useful. Okay. So when you have your cart, you then are going to decide to see what we want to look for, and we are going to look for fairy tale. It will do some filling in for you, and also you can search by keyword, author, title, whatever you want to search by. You can see we have our Court of Thorn and Roses, all sorts of different things that come up, and you'll see here the different lending models. So we have a metered access 24 months, we have a one copy, one user. Sometimes the same title will have multiple lending models, so you can decide. So like here, we have a 26 checkout for one user, and then a metered access 100 checkouts. So the important thing to remember about the 100 checkouts is that those 100 checkouts are shared. So if you buy those 100 checkouts for $139 and your library has 27 holds on the title, your 27 copies will go immediately, and then the remainder of those checkouts will be available to anybody in the consortium. So it is a great model, but it is important to remember that those are shared checkouts. Your metered access, 26 checkouts, 52 checkouts, 1 year, 2 years, and your one copy, one user are automatically shared with other Buckles libraries. Now, your patrons get priority. So if your patron has a hold on the title, they will go to the top of the list over your patron, so other libraries patrons. So you may have 3 holds, so your holds will be 1, 2, 3, and then my patron would be number 4. If you had another patron that placed a hold on it, they would be put to number 4, and my patron would become number 5. So that's how that sharing process works. But one of my main things is to remind everybody that the 100 checkouts is a shared model. Does everybody, and then when you're ready, you pick your model, and then you hit add to main cart, which will be the cart that's at the top here, or you can click on the little arrow and pick to whichever cart you want. They'll show up here, or you can create a new cart. And that's the basics of shopping. You find what you want, you add it to your cart. Pretty much a standard process. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully. One of the other things that you can do that I think is worthwhile is that you can save a search. So you'll notice here I have a testing a save a search, and we'll talk about it more when we get to cost per search. But this is a really great, if you have a search that you run every month, if you know that you're doing bestsellers, if you know that you're doing a certain topic, sorry, it is good to have those searches saved so you don't have to keep recreating the wheel every month. So the easiest thing to do is when you do a search, you also have all of your filters that you can do. So you can do holdings, format, lending model, those things. If we're going to go, sorry, you have to run your search. And advanced search. But here you can see create a new saved search. So you would hit create a new saved search, and then you would do all of your various filters. So they have a lot of filters. You can get really granular with Overdrive and your searching. You can do subjects, you can do look files, you can do lending models, you can do number of holds, you can do all sorts of things. And then once you're done, you would hit save, you would give it a name, and then you would say you want it to save in your pinned searches, and then that is going to show up here. When you have added everything to your cart that you want, so this is my May 2025 cart. You can see some of the things. The things that are in red are things that are pre-orders. They have not reached their street date yet. So this is why for me, I have 2 April titles in my May cart because I don't like pre-orders, but that is a thing that you can decide for your individual library. When you are ready to order your cart, you click on the purchase cart. And then Overdrive has all of the checkboxes in all of the land that you need to check off. So these are all of your warnings about the fact that you have pre-orders or that you have various metered access, and it wants you to check all of those off so that you can't say later that you didn't mean to buy something or that you didn't know that it was going to be metered access. All of your orders are final. If you order something, very, 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 very rarely can you get out of it. Usually once you've bought it, you've bought it. It also says that your titles will be available within 24 hours. I find that that's really more like 3 or 4 hours. Rarely does it take 24 hours, but Overdrive wants to set your expectations. So they tell you that it's 24 hours, even though it's only about 3 or 4. You can give it an internal purchase order ID. If you're doing a lot of invoices, I find this is helpful, particularly if you have different departments or if you have a PO system in your library, you can put this here and then that will show up on the invoice. You will be invoiced the balance of this order. You can also adjust how you want it to be billed. Let me check off all of my checkboxes so you can see what it looks like. There we go. So you can pay by bank account or credit card. You can set those up with Overdrive directly if that's something you want to do, or we use the invoice. So we use bill my account, and then when you're done, you hit complete purchase. So again, it's a pretty standard ordering process. When you place an order and you want to see your invoice, they'll email you your invoices, but you can also go to billing and go to view invoices. And you can, it defaults to, I think 30 days, but you can see our unpaid invoices currently are my April ones. And you can change, if you go to search invoices, you can change your period. You can do whether you want to do pay, if you're looking for your paid invoices, you can do those. These are if you have a particular order ID, or again, if you had a purchase order ID for your library, you can search by that. And you can see those here. And then you can download those if you check off whichever invoices you're interested in. You can save the invoices to PDF, or you can hit pay invoices if you're paying with either a credit card or an ACH. If you have somebody in your library that you want to just do the invoices, so if you have a business manager or an accountant or somebody that deals with bills specifically, and you want them to have the ability to pay your bills, but not maybe do the ordering or have full access, you can create different users for them. That's something that you can do under admin manage users, or you can just ask Overdrive and they can help you set that up. But that's our admin marketplace users. and then you would just hit add users. If for some reason you do not have access to this, again, you would want to talk to whoever in your library is your main admin and or talk to Overdrive. If that person is no longer at your library, sometimes that can be challenging. So you can just reach out to Overdrive and they'll fix it for you. Any questions on the invoices or the ordering? Okay. So we're going to move on to some basic reporting. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat or you can unmute and ask since we're such a small group. Overdrive puts their reports in the insights area. So you can see these are the consortium statistics. Alas, I do not have 35,000 unique users. And you can see they have some sort of quick snapshots here. You can see the patron interests, which is what used to be recommend to you library, and now it's called Notify Me. So these are the things that your patrons are interested in that you don't currently own. So I have 400 and we have 432 total Notify Me tags, and there's some things about shockingly, when you buy new things, those things get checked out. The most common ones that you're going to be doing for your reporting are, of course, your checkouts and your holds. So you can look at your checkouts by a lot of different things. So if you want to look at, if you have just for your library, if you want to look at checkouts by a particular author, by a particular day, by ebook or audiobook, by a month, by a publisher, you can, by a subject, you can look at all of these information here. So we're gonna, let's do subject just for fun. You can limit it to your library. Again, if you want to look at the main collection, Libby, if you have different options there. We're going to do all options. And then under Advantage checkouts, you have show all checkouts bought by the consortium and or Advantage. So this is all of the checkouts that you have gotten. You can see the checkouts just on your Advantage owned titles, which is the whole, everybody in the system's checkouts on your titles. And then if you just want your library's users on your Advantage titles, that's the last checkbox. I like to see everything, so I am going to keep the first checkbox, and we're going to look at March and see what we got. Unsurprising to anybody, the top subject is fiction. Also, you then see you have a lot of other subgenres or subcategories that are also fall into fiction, like literature, romance, humor, thriller, fantasy. And then if you click on the number, then you will get a more detailed list of the checkouts. So if you're like, under fiction, what am I seeing for checkouts? You can see all of your checkouts. If you click on one of the headers, it will sort by that heading. You can also change, run a new report, and you can create an Excel spreadsheet for your report to see that to use to do more data analysis later if that's something that you are interested in. Towards the end of the year, we usually do an advanced reporting where they talk a lot about pivot tables and other things that I don't know enough about to talk to you about. But if you're interested in really advanced reporting, I would say look out for that session in the future. The other report that people use a lot, and then you can go at the top, you can jump to a different report, is of course the current holds. Because most of us purchase for our Advantage libraries based on holds. So you can run by, again, you can run by title, by user, by branch. I'm going to have it to say updates. So now we're going to look at holds. So this is all of the holds in the system. And you'll notice under Advantage holds, that's what I'm more interested in, but I like to see the system and my library. I can limit the search to only see my holds, but I like to look at it this way. So I'm going to do sort descending so I can see for my patrons what has the most holds. So the wedding people currently has 14 Advantage holds, but I currently own 2 copies. The consortium owns 7 copies, and the consortium ratio is 3.56. Things that you see in red are not out yet. They're pre-orders. So my patrons have 11 holds on the ebook of A Great Big Beautiful Life and 10 holds on the audiobook of A Great Big Beautiful Life. Again, I don't own any yet because I don't do pre-orders. But this is how you can see what your top holds are, what you own, what the consortia ratio is. This is what I use to determine if I need to purchase another copy or not, and how many copies you already own of that title. And then you could just click on the title. And I can see that I have 7 holds. It has a consortia ratio of 8.6. It's a metered access title. I get 2 years for $65. If I want it, I can put add to main cart, or I could add it to a different cart. I'm going to do add to main, and then you'll see that it was added. It'll tell you your cart basics, and then that disappears. It does open new tabs. So sometimes I feel like I have 27 tabs open for Overdrive at one time. So that's something to keep an eye on. So those are your insights. Overdrive has a lot of training available on their website, as well as some really good Q&As. So if you're looking for a like, oh, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? You'll be able to find a lot of that there. You can also, of course, reach out to me if you have any questions as well. Any questions so far of what we have talked about? So we've talked about how to search for stuff, how to put it in your cart, how to buy it, how to find your bills, and how to run some of your basic reports. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of your shopping options. So if you'll see under shop here on the upper left-hand corner, it defaults to 1 copy, 1 user, and metered access. So the 1 copy, 1 user metered access is you've got 1 copy and 1 person can have that book out at a time. And everybody else who wants it has to put it on hold, and then it works down the holds list. It is very much the traditional library model of how things go. The metered access are metered. It basically means you're buying a limited license. Oh, let's see. What was the first key report that you mentioned before current holds? The checkouts. So the checkouts will tell you how many your circulation statistics. So for metered access, sometimes you have different options. So it's 26 checkouts, 52 checkouts, 1 year, 2 years, and again, the 100 concurrent checkouts. Those are all shared. So if you buy one of those models, the 1 copy, 1 user metered access models, those are shared. So if you want to buy 100 checkouts for the whole group, everybody will say thank you very much, but just know that you're buying them for the whole group. One of the other lending models that's relatively new to Buckles being able to use it is called cost per circ. So you're basically paying per checkout. This is similar to the Hoopla model, where as many people who want to have the title out at one time can have the title out at one time, and you are paying per checkout. And this can be great, but as you can just see from this ebook bestsellers, the prices vary widely, and they can be insane. So you can see that The Careless People is $15.29 per checkout. Other infuriating news is that the audiobook of that title is $3.99 per checkout. Personally, I do not buy anything that is more than $10 per circ. You'll see some of the new audiobooks tend to be around $9.50. Most of your new popular fiction is going to top out somewhere in the $5 to $7 range, although now Macmillan is doing things differently and has some really high prices, and those you'll see at the $15.29, and then the Wild Dark Shore, which is the $13.49. This can be really great for holds management, because if you have one hold on something, it might be worth the $5 to get your patron through a really long hold list, because if you only have one or two, rather than buying a $60 copy that you'll have for 2 years, that you're only going to need a couple of those checkouts. So this is really sort of an art form, and it depends on what your goals are and how much money you have to spend. The way Cost Per Circs works is that you set a budget, and you'll see that this is my April Cost Per Circ budget. My monthly budget for Cost Per Circ is $700, and I currently have $285 left. If you want to create a new budget, you simply create new budget. You tell it the name of your budget. So we're going to create my May 2025 Cost Per Circ. You say how much you want to spend. If you have an internal purchase order ID, if you want to lock it to keep other people from making changes. And then this billing account is your Advantage account, and it's already pre-filled. And then you can say create. You can have as many budgets active at one time as you want. So if you want to have a bestsellers budget, or even if you have one title and you only want to spend $100 or $20 on that particular title, you can create a budget for Careless People. And that way it will keep your patrons from spending all of your money on one title. Because once you have added it to Cost Per Circ, if you still have money left, it will allow people to check out. And so you might get more checkouts on one title than you had originally intended. So if you're concerned about that, you can do different budgets for different titles. I cannot be bothered to do that. And so I have a 1 monthly budget. And then I tend to track it pretty closely to make sure that I'm not getting 40 checkouts on one title. But this is how you see your Cost Per Circ budget. So we're going to go back to Shop Cost Per Circ. And then we have, again, in the saved searches, I have 2 saved searches. I have a Cost Per Circ in collection, which will show me what I currently have available to my patrons as Cost Per Circ. And then these are the Cost Per Circ on hold, is anything that my patrons have on hold that is available in Cost Per Circ. So if I go to Cost Per Circ in collection, you can see these are the things I currently have. I can see that I don't currently have any active holds. My title is suspended, so I'm going to hit revoke. Now, I have all of my titles scheduled to revoke at the end of the month, because for my accounting, that way I know that everything that was checked out in that month will be on my monthly invoice. When you're ready to revoke, you can say revoke now and then hit confirm. If I wanted to change, say I didn't want this to end at the end of April, I wanted to extend it, I could just simply hit schedule when to revoke, change my date, and say confirm. But I'm going to revoke it now. I say confirm. And now within 24 hours, that title will no longer be available to my patrons in Cost Per Circ. So for me, when my holds have been fulfilled, so you can see I no longer have any active holds on this title, I revoke them because I want to spend my money on holds for Cost Per Circ, not for general checkouts. I also generally only do things that have a higher than 6-to-1 ratio. That may change. There's a particular title that somebody has requested, or if I want to get, if something costs 99 cents, I might purchase it to get my patron through faster, even if the hold threshold is not quite as high. And so that's how you do that. You just hit revoke, confirm, and then it's revoked or no longer available. if I want to see what my patrons have on hold, so I'm going to go to my cost per circ on hold, save to search. And we can see my patrons really are interested in this great big beautiful life. It defaults to most holds. I like to look at highest holds ratio. So I'm going to click on highest holds ratio, but you can sort by any of those options. Most popular, most recent street date, most holds, title, lowest price. There's a bunch of different options that you can sort by. So I can see if something is pre-ordered. So I can see by ratio and then how many holds I have. So I'm just going to go through. So I'm going to, generally when I do this, I look for anything over 6. And again, I ignore pre-orders. You do not have to. That's just my personal preference. So here we have Tidy Up Your Life by Tyler Moore. It's an audiobook. Has 15 holds, or 15 holds for the consortium. I have 1 hold. The other thing I generally look at is how many circs I've had of this title in the past year. If I'm starting to see that that title is popular amongst my patrons and I'm getting 4, 5, 6 circulations, I may want to buy the metered access or the 1 copy, 1 user because that title is something that more people are going to want over time. Whereas in this case, I can see that this title came out in January. None of my patrons have checked it out. I have 1 hold. So I'm going to add this to my April. I'm going to set to schedule it to revoke at the end of April. Hit confirm. And now that title in a couple of hours is going to be available to my patrons to check out. Anybody that has that title on hold will get a notification that it's ready to be checked out. And then they will have it and I will see $4.75 on my invoice. Now, if that patron does not check that title out, if they suspend the hold or they just don't respond, you don't get charged. You only get charged when the title is actively checked out. And then I just work my way down the list and decide what I want to add. Easy peasy. Does anybody have any question about how to add items to their cost per circ or remove items from their cost per circ? Cost per cert can also be really great if you have book clubs and you want everybody in the book club to be able to have access to the title. If you're doing a town-wide read or if a particular grade is reading all 1 book. We use it for summer reading where I take my summer reading list and I put things on there so that patrons can get through things faster and not have to wait through the whole process. So it can be really useful. It can also be really expensive. So pay attention to your budgets and pay attention to what titles you have, because if your patrons realize that you put the new hottest title as available for cost per circ, I feel like word of mouth is a thing that happens, and then you'll suddenly see you have 7 checkouts on that 1 title. So just keep an eye on it if that's something that concerns you. So another lending model that Overdrive has is called, now it is called subscriptions. It used to be called simultaneous use, but now it's called subscriptions. And these are the items that you would do in addition. So a lot of these are sort of packs of titles that might be available all of the time. So you pay a certain amount up front and then you have access to whatever number of titles forever, how long your contract period is. So the magazines are one of the things that would be subscriptions. Now, Buckles does the magazines for the consortium, so you do not have to subscribe to the magazines on your own. If I had subscribed to the magazines on my own, it would be $2,000 for my library. It's based on your population size. But you can see here there's all different things. So if you wanted to have all access comics, there's 4,000 comics, unlimited checkouts, and it costs $1,500 a year to add that to your subscription. The same with romance, there's kids, you have NASA, there's all different, some are ebooks, some are audiobook. There are a lot of different options. You have some foreign language titles in here. So there's a lot of different options that these can add on, and these are just for your patrons. These are not shared out to the consortium. If you are interested in any of these, just reach out to the Overdrive rep and they will work you through the process. These are your audiobook ones. So this can be a good way to make sure it's something available all the time, or like with All Access Comics, to have more titles available for patrons on a highly sought after category. Also, in your very shopping, we have the Libby Extras. So these are the services that are separate services that are in addition. So they have great courses, Craftsy, Hello. A lot of these are cost per circ options. You can also do subscriptions. So ArtistWorks, Ground News, Law Depot. These are all options that you have. They also have Canopy, I think it's in there. Oh. Canopy is also owned by Overdrive now, so if you're interested in Canopy, you can reach out to your Overdrive rep. Under the support tab is where you are going to find our Overdrive rep information. So we have a new Overdrive rep. Her name is Kristen. She's going to be working with Alicia to do the trainings that we have coming up later on about reporting and curation. And then we also have Allison, who is our product support specialist. She works more on the back end. She would be working more with Overdrive, or more with Buckles on sort of the back end and the catalog. Alicia does digital content. She works on curation. And if you had questions about ordering or wanting them to create carts for you, that is something that Overdrive will do. And Alicia would be your contact for that. And Kristen basically does everything else. My default is I will just ask Kristen or her predecessor, Nick, and then they will direct you to where you need to go. So if you're not quite sure who to ask, just ask Kristen, and then she will get you the information that you need. I have found that their customer service is great, and the reps are very knowledgeable and very helpful. Also in your support tab, you can manage holds. Generally, this is not something we usually handle. This is done on the Buckles end, but if you needed to look at your holds or return a title, you can do that here. Insert to checkout if somebody's having issues with the download. And again, your marketplace help and your Overdrive Resource Center. So Overdrive has a lot of really great materials available to you. So you're going to go to Public Library. And this is where you're going to find there's a lot of marketing. So they provide a lot of preset images and campaigns for you to use. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. They have webinars, marketing and outreach. They have a lot of marketing materials. You can order physical materials. They basically have business card size items for Libby and Canopy. They have collection development picks, they have training, and this is where you can see what's happening or where upgrades are going to be coming down the pike. They have a conference called Digipalooza that happens every couple of years in Cleveland, which is where they're based out of. It's a really great conference, so if you have any interest in that, go to Digipalooza. And then you can learn about Libby and Canopy, and then you can see their new and popular resources. So they had information available for National Library Week, spring cleanup. They also do something called a big read a couple of times a year, and one is coming up in May, where they make a particular title available as simultaneous use at no cost to the individual libraries, and it gives you an ability to promote your service and possibly do a program. We're going to be doing a book discussion about the title, and that is something that Overdrive does a couple of times a year. Any questions? Is there anything about Overdrive that you do not know how to do that you would like to do that I did not cover? Something I went too fast over? something that you want to know how to do that you're not sure how to do, have an existential crisis about how expensive it all is. Okay, just to reiterate for the cost per circ, we're going to hit for our shared searches, or saved searches, I'm sorry, you can create a new saved search, or for my search, you can click, if you've saved a search, you can click on it and see your results. And you can also see the filters that you've applied on the side. So I have owned as cost per circ as my filter. And then on my other one, I have not owned and I have it as on hold. So this is how you can do your searches. They've actually made this easier. Before you had to do a few more steps to get to your saved searches, but now they have it right here. And the little pin is how you know it will show up on your main page. That is all I had today. If anybody has any other questions, please let me know. Like I said, you can reach out to me. Darlene will be sending out the slides and the link to the recording. And I hope that you found this somewhat useful and that your Overdrive experience is a little bit easier from the day.
Thank you, Tina Marie. I thought that was a great overview. Lots of good information. Yeah, no, I think you explained everything very well and gave a nice overview.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, thank you.